U.S. officials tell Fox News that world leaders are meeting in Vienna will miss their June 30th deadline for an Iranian nuclear deal. Former CIA Director Michael Hayden said on Fox News Sunday that the U.S. has lost its edge going into the final days of these nuclear negotiations with Iran. He also says that the framework of the deal just doesn't go far enough in preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear arsenal in the future. And now this. Terror in Tunisia, 38 people killed at a beach resort in that North African country. The lone gunman had ties to ISIS. Tony Shaffer is in D.C. Tony,
hey,
it's absolutely remarkable, the images that came out of there, and there's so many questions. And, of course, there were two other attacks that day, one in France, and I think the other was in Syria. But the point is, Tunisia, these are Westerners that went there. They felt comfortable enough to go there, even though we had this the Arab Spring started there. Why do we think it was so safe, or why did they think it was so safe? And just one lone gunman tells me, is there anything that could really ever be done to stop one crazy?
I think there's three ways of answering that. First, I think the Western countries need to remain vigilant, and I like the idea of citizens going to places. Remember, Charles, there was an attack at Luxor recently, too, in Egypt. I encourage people to go to Egypt. No matter where you go, you're not going to be completely safe. With that said, clearly, ISIS is now reaching out, trying to attack targets of economic interest to the West. And I think it's very clear at this point that what's going on is that you see them trying to basically spread their wings. These all were orchestrated within hours of each other and globally. So, again, these ISIS folks are trying to send a message to the West, something we need to heed, because, as you point out in the introduction to this segment, is that how do you look at preventing these sort of attacks? Well, you have to be vigilant. Everybody, even here in the United States, Charles, has to start paying attention to the fact that weapons are available, and you're going to find a way to be aware.
Yeah, Tony, to that point, though, here's what I find very disturbing. Almost every time these things happen now, the person was on a watch list. The person had already been brought in. What the heck is going on? We know who these people are. I don't know if we're talking about constitutional issues here, monetary issues, but we actually know who the most dangerous people in our midst are, and we don't watch them, and then we find out they went out and did something like this.
We've allowed the Islamic radicals to create a blind spot for us. Even President Obama has a hard time admitting that this is about a very radicalized version of the Islamic faith. And, Charles, what I find interesting is that those in the Islamic faith fighting this, my associates in London, for example, the Association of British Muslims, who are fighting radicalism, trying to de-radicalize the Muslim faith, don't see us as supporting this. So what happens, that becomes a law enforcement issue. Law enforcement is told to back off, give these people space, and don't look at this religion because it's the religion of peace. Well, elements of it are not the religion of peace, and that's why they're given so much space.
To your point here, it's Liz McDonald. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Sure.
Which of the U.S. presidential contenders do you think is toughest on national security and anti-terrorism actions? I mean, one guy committed this amount of damage, and then you have the attacks on the NSA. Senator Democrat Dianne Feinstein said 54 plots were foiled by the NSA, and that was as of just 2013. Which of the U.S. presidential contenders do you think is toughest on national security issues?
Do we have a half an hour to walk through all of them? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. To be quite honest, behind the scenes, London Center, we're all meeting with all the candidates. I just ran into Lincoln Chafee in the green room. Look, we're going to try to talk to all of them to find out who basically has the best ideas going forward. There's a long time out there between now and the primaries. But what we have to do right now is recognize that each candidate is going to have to learn, because none of them are national security experts. So I think it's going to be more important of who they talk to and how they develop their philosophy rather than who's strongest right now.
Tony, we've got just 20 seconds left.
Sure.
July 4th coming up. Should people do anything different? Should we go out and just be vigilant, or should we be a lot more cautious?
Be a lot more cautious. Let me tell you, the FBI's put out a memo behind the scenes here, and they're telling everybody, all the local police departments, all the local security, to be on your toes. Again, we've seen attacks right here in the United States already, in Texas, and the Dra Muhammad contest. There's no reason to believe they're not here. And I'll tell you right now, if they don't attack, they're going to have reconnaissance folks in the crowds right here in Washington over the weekend.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Charles.